This is the story of how the government ruined my credit and how I fixed it. That's it.
Want some money?
It's important that we share our losses and our mistakes and not just our successes, because it's our losses and our mistakes where we learn our most valuable lessons. And if we could use those lessons and improve our business and how we do things and how we serve our clients, then that to me is the most important part of what I do. So today's story on Let's Get This Money is about how the government ruined my credit. Now that's a bold statement, right? Everyone likes to blame the government for everything. So settle in and I'll tell you the story. So many of you who know me know that I worked for TSA for many years, about 16 years, most of that at Providence, TF Green Airport, actually in Warwick. So I worked there about 16 years. I did real estate the last 6 or 7, 8 years of that time frame, as well as, worked in the airport. So it was kind of a big journey, man, a lot of hours. So once I knew that I wanted to quit, I worked with HR and we kind of planned out a date. And listen, I want to just say something really quick so nobody gets it confused. I really, really enjoyed my time at TSA. I learned a lot of great lessons at TSA. I met a lot of very supportive people. I have nothing but good things to say, okay? So I highly recommend it. Somebody wants a good job to get into the government, 100%. But as I grew in business, I learned that I wanted to work for myself, and I couldn't wrap my head around working a 40-hour-a-week job when I really wanted to do my own thing and run my business. And that's a whole other video, and I'd love to tell that story one day. But, so, like many jobs, you accrue vacation time, and that's kind of was the story at TSA. So I accrued all this vacation time. I worked with HR. I was like, look, I want to quit. How much time do I have left? And I want to use it up and just collect a couple of checks. When the vacation time runs out, I'll come back, sign the paper, and we go our separate ways. Seems like an easy plan. Things don't always go as easy as they seem. So that was the case. I did that. December of 2018, I left the government. Around March of 2019, I get this random letter in the mail. Hey, buddy, you owe the government $785 or something like that. I'm like, what the heck is this? Now, you have to understand, once you leave a job, the motivation kind of goes away, right? It's just, they have more pressing matters with current employees. I get it. So, I start reaching out. I'm like, what is this? Nobody really had an answer. So the first mistake I made, and I'll tell you, there's 3 key mistakes that I made, and we're going to share them here. So the first mistake I made, I spent way too much time on this because it's me, I'm Dave, how dare you tell me, I'm right, you're wrong, and I had to fight it and just, so, one of the things you learn, when you work for yourself, your time is critical, so you need to spend your time on the most important things that are most important for your business. So yes, $785 is a lot of money, right? But spending 20 hours of my time on that, that's like $30, $35 an hour, whatever it is, okay? And, I could be doing so much more productive things. If I had spent 1 hour of that time generating a new listing, I would have 10x that return, wrote that check, and never missed a beat. But again, these are the lessons you have to learn in life. This show is all about the wins and the losses and kind of the reality of what we do, right? And so definitely spent way too much time on that. So I went back and forth with them. I'm writing letters. I'm doing my own audits. Just in retrospect, complete waste of time. But whatever, I did it, Wasn't able, nobody really had ever encountered that before, so nobody could give me a straight answer on how to handle it. So long story short, they went back and forth with me a few times, the TSA headquarters in DC, and then I didn't hear anything. So I was like, all right, I was right, kept it moving, didn't think about it. A couple of months later, I get a letter in the mail from a collection agency, right? And that collection agency said, hey, we own this debt now and it's $1,100. Pay it. So now I'm like, oh man, dude, I can't have collections. So one thing, in my business, I always had good credit, right? That's one thing I learned from my parents. I understood how credit works, and we talk about this a lot with our clients and what makes a good credit score. So I knew that my credit was on point. And, so I see this collection agency thing and I start to panic. So the second mistake I made, and I think people make this mistake a lot, and it's not a knock on anybody by any means, okay? So like I said, I had a great experience working at TSA. A lot of people, taught me a lot of stuff, and they just helped me out, and I'm very grateful. And, I think the mistake though was, and this is something that people do a lot, right? Because somebody gives you good advice about something, so in this instance, they gave me great career advice, great management advice, how to grow in an organization, how to manage people, that was stellar. I use a lot of that to this day. I learned more there than I thought I was learning when I was learning it. But just because somebody gives you that good level of advice on one thing does not mean that all advice they give is equal. So the second mistake I made was I took advice from the wrong sources. So somebody there told me, just pay the bill, you can afford it. All right, so never tell someone they can afford anything. All right, that's a whole nother story as well. Nobody likes to be told what they can and can't afford. But, the key takeaway there was just pay the bill. So I'm like, so-and-so, he's always been good. All right, I look up to the guy. I'm just going to take that advice and pay the bill. Big mistake. Because when you pay a bill to a collection agency, their motivation to negotiate with you goes out the window once they get the money. So they could care less. Who am I? I'm just some file on a desk. They bought debt from the government and they're just trying to make what they can on it. So I paid the bill because I just wanted it to go away. I was tired of dealing with it. And then this is where the fun begins. So until this point, my credit was always in the 800s. It just grew over time. But I was finally, I broke 800. I was in 800s. And I look at it as like, how can I give advice if my house is not in order? You know what I mean? And my business relies on credit, right? I buy houses, I sell houses, aside from being a broker. So, I paid that bill, my score was in the 8s. All of a sudden, I go to refi my personal house. And then my lender at the time pulls my credit 650. 164-point drop from 814 to 650. The charts are on the screen. We're sharing the data. This is real life, real stories from the trenches, lessons learned, how to grow, okay? So I was like devastated, right? I'm like, how can I, give people financial advice? How can they take me seriously when I can't even get a mortgage myself? That was a complete mind shift, right? So now I'm like furious, right? I'm like, man, what do I do? You know what I mean? So this particular lender, so the mistake there was, I paid the bill without negotiating with the creditor. So I've since learned from that experience that never pay a bill that you owe that's in collections unless you negotiate with the creditor first to not be on your credit. So through this experience, I saw it as, okay, this is what some of my clients are going through, and I've never had this perspective firsthand. So, I looked at the lender and I'm like, all right, buddy, what do we do? We've done business a lot. I send my clients to you. What do you recommend? So he gives me a couple of phone numbers to call. Again, more time I got to spend tracking this stuff down. So I'm calling these credit bureaus. I'm not going to get anywhere with this. I don't know what to do. So I just kind of got frustrated with it and let it ride. So from 2019 on, I just didn't deal with it. Now, I also adapted, right? So instead of using bank money, I never refied my house, so I lost that great rate. But I just adapted. I used private money. We have different ways of financing flips and stuff like that. So it really didn't matter. But fast forward now, a year or two later, 3 years later. So throughout that time, I realized though, how can I send clients to this lender if they really don't care? So I actually found a much better lender. So that was one of the great adaptations that we made to our business, right? How can we better serve our clients? 5-star experience, you'd be excited to tell a friend about. We found a better lender that does not leave people hanging. So I'm very confident now, if any of my clients run into that, the team that we have in place will not happen. Okay, we're gonna work with you. So that's that. So I learned that lesson. And then the next lesson was credit repair specialist. So we actually have someone that works with our team now. And I tell him this story. His name is Arthur. And Arthur's just laughing at me. He's like, man, why did you pay that bill? You got to call, you got to negotiate. Lesson learned. But to his credit, so, let's take it like this. So 650 in September of 2019, okay? Through May of this year, just by having good habits that I always had, I didn't do anything different. One negative thing on your credit trashes you. And over the course of 3 years or so, it kind of drifted up 69 points, right? So I got about a third of that back that I lost, give or take, okay? but it's a 719. So I went to get a mortgage on a property that we decided to keep about a month or two ago, an investment property. And I realized like I have to handle this. Like I gotta get rid of this. This is stupid. So I started working with Arthur. I'm like, hey, I'm sending my clients to Arthur. Let's see what these guys can do. And after Arthur laughed at me for making such a bad mistake, a rookie error, all right, but that's how you learn. Arthur and his team took charge, and I kid you not, less than 2 months, literally from 719 back into 8s, baby, 825. So he got me 106 points in less than 2 months. So the government ruined my credit. I made some fatal errors there, some 3 key mistakes that I made, and this is what we want to do, man. Like, let's get this money, let's learn from each other, let's build. So those were the 3 mistakes I made, right? Took advice from people that weren't qualified to give that type of advice, right? I paid a bill off without negotiating with the creditor, and I wasted way too much time on something that I should have just handled and nipped in the bud right away. Because I'm confident if I would have just paid the bill up front and fought it later, I probably would have won. And by the way, as an aside, I got a random letter in the mail in March, about 3 months ago. And it was from the government, and they were like, hey, by the way, about that thing, yeah, you were right. You don't owe the money. So all of this, and I was right. And then I got this random check in the mail from them. It wasn't enough to cover what I paid, but I bought Bitcoin with it, so whatever, right? At least it's invested. So maybe in 10 years it won't matter. But yeah, so shout out to Arthur. Those are our guys. Fix the credit quick. All right, so that's the lessons, guys. Be careful who you take advice from. People have the greatest intentions in the world. They give you great advice on child raising, how to raise your kids, how to fix a car, how to book a trip, but that doesn't mean that all advice they give you is equally good. All right, so we're experts in the field of real estate, so consult with us. All right, if nothing else, even if you're not a client, you have a question, reach out. But that's the story, guys. So I hope you can learn from my mistakes and build from there. All right, so let's get this money together. I look forward to connecting. Oh, real quick, it's important. It's good for the algorithm and it helps us out. So if you're watching this on YouTube, comment below if you've ever had any situations like this. I'd love to hear your story. And please hit that subscribe button, that notification bell, share it with your friends. If you're on Facebook, Instagram, whatever network you're on, just like our pages, follow us and comment. I'd love to hear from you guys, kind of what your experiences are with stuff like this. All right, got to drop the line in every video. Thanks.